Did you see the video I posted of Wilson saying motherfucky or what the fucky?
It's what the
What
right?
the fucky? Yeah. He learned a new
I
word.
did not see him say motherfucky.
No,
It's a big one. Yeah, that's true. There's something about
either
that
way,
that's
all of
like
it felt big in the
more.
moment. Yeah,
Like my mom would have been mad about motherfucker. But regular is just a little bit whatever.
I thought while I watched it back, I was like, what's Layne going to think? Because I know that I'm not supposed to respond big, because the bigger you respond, the more they know that this word is powerful. But the funny thing was, he hadn't said it till I started filming.
Mm-hmm.
And then he thought it was a joke, but then sometimes he says things, but he means something else. So the reason why I kept asking, like, what are you saying? Is because I'm thinking maybe he's trying to say something else.
Sure.
But the more
It a little bit sounded like Becky.
Thank you. Yeah. Or
been.
what? There's like a second half of the video where I'm saying, like, are you trying to say what the heck?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, what the hecky? Like, whatever. Like, he's like, sure, I'll say that. Whatever.
Right.
Yeah. But then it's funny to watch back and see that every time I'm like, what are you saying? And he's like, what the fucky? And I'm like, and then like in the second part of the video, which I didn't show, I was like, we probably shouldn't say that. And then I'm like scrambling to try and ask myself, like, why shouldn't we say that? I'm like, it's not really a kid's word. And like parents might freak out. And then I'm like, but I don't know if I'm going to freak out. I don't really know what type of parent I am. Like, I've never done this before. Okay, guys, so let's not say that. Let's get out of the bathroom. Yeah. So much to learn in these moments that you aren't prepared for.
I thought it was so funny. And I don't think you did do like a big reaction.
Yeah.
This is what, I mean, we did a whole podcast episode about this previously. But like the thing that I don't want when children do that is for parents to be like, ugh. And then it tells your child like, oh, this is a thing to go right here in my back brain for next time I want to really upset my mom.
Oh, got it. Yeah, I definitely wasn't upset.
No. So I don't feel like you taught him that it was like,
and he almost said it this morning. He like started to say like, what the and then he like looked at me and Eloise and we were like, buddy. And then he didn't.
Eloise was my favorite part of that video. Yeah. Because she was like, no, never heard him say that before.
Didn't her face definitely look like,
okay, just once.
Thank you.
It was like
I know.
Such a big sister lie. We're not a liar.
I was like, you did. You have. I can see on your face.
Yeah, just once.
But then after the video was done, she's like, I didn't teach it to him, and I did hear him say it once, but then he just didn't say it again. I'm like, well, it's very funny when he says it a lot. But
yes.
Anyway,
I did. Connor and I talked about it because it was so funny, and I did think that the fact that he is using it wrong makes you think that he probably he heard another kid say it and then was like, oh, other kids are loud. So, right. It's when there's a 2-year-old in your classroom who's like trying to pull her jacket off and it's stuck on her little arm hand. And then she's like shaking it. She goes, this fucking jacket won't get off. That's how you know.
No, she learned it from mom or dad.
Yeah. Also, that was the little sister of the girl who called her dad a PUSSY.
Wow.
That's how you know it's grown-ups.
Those are the kids I love to be around because they're very entertaining.
Me too. But those are grown-ups using that right in their presence, as opposed to your 3-year-old who's like, this is a weird sound.
True. That's so true. Okay, well, guys, welcome back to another episode. My name is Jessica Hover.
I'm Layne Cherland, and this is Very Good Enough, a podcast from Very Good Mothers Club.
I like how when we use Instagram captions, it says, my name is Jessica Hobert and your name is Layne Gerland.
Is it?
Gerland.
Gerund. I thought
Gerund. Something like that. Yeah. I just was happy it was for both of us. The wrong thing. I thought it was very cute. Thanks, Instagram.
Those will be our super spy aliases.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't tell anybody.
Beloved, what are we speaking about today? Because you're very prepared. You have notes.
I'm going to crinkle them so that even if you're not listening, you can hear that terrible sound. Sorry, even if you're not watching on YouTube.
Yep.
We're going to talk today about a thing that is like the super bottom layer of everything, mega secret. If you want to actually know what is happening in the life of your child, you want to know them as a person.
Key that unlocks everything.
Yeah, you want to build everything inside of them that they need. There is a separate world that they live in that we don't
you
live
said
in
it. You said
anymore.
like, do you want your kids to be emotionally healthy? Do you want them to be less frustrated?
Yeah.
Do you want to feel less frustrated?
I want them to develop fine motor skills and be confident and grow into powerful leaders and creative problem solvers.
Yeah.
Connected and feel safe in the world and process their life experiences independently.
This is the everything of everything.
It's the everything of everything.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't know what to call it.
Stay tuned for the title. By the time you hear it, there's a title. But in
We'll
this
have
moment,
decided.
we don't know what to call it.
We're really literally just going to talk about play.
Yeah.
It's just play.
It's play.
Surprise.
But it's so important. And Layne's about to teach us why. And I actually didn't know why it was so important until the first time we talked about it last year, just in my personal life with her. She taught me about it. And then you spoke to Very Good Mothers Club too.
Yeah.
Will you just remind us? You just speak. I'll listen. I'll ask questions. I'll chime in if I have anything. But mostly we're here to learn. And this is your area of expertise, really.
Yes, this is like one of my manifestos. Should there ever be a book, this will be much of the content. So the page ruffling that you can hear and see these are my notes actually for the talk that I did in Very Good Mothers Club, which was one of the first times that I really tried to like pull all of this together.
Which is the perfect time to invite people to join our membership community. If you have not already, verygoodmothersclubhouse.com for $15 a month or $150 a year, which is a deal. Okay. You can join, and Layne and I lead Zoom calls now on the fourth Tuesday of the month.
Tuesday of the month.
Yeah, you can actually chat with us. You can bring questions or hot topics, or we can just sit around and drink coffee and chat.
We'll just gaze into one another's eyes.
into each other's eyes via Zoom. But yeah, it's a really great community, and the people who are in it are very connected, and we are friends, and we know each other's spouses' names and kids' names, and it's super cool. And sometimes we bring in experts to teach on things, and Layne was one of our experts last year to teach on this topic. So we're going to do it now podcast style.
One of the very first things that I learned in child development classes, this I learned in my very, very first one. It's one of the things that made me be like, oh, I can live in kid world. Like I could do this here. It's not just like clip art and, cotton ball sheep and stuff that is. I was scared. And then I learned some of this stuff and was like, oh, this is the world. Oh, this is people. Yeah. Whoa, this is like real connection and like the nitty gritty of life. So this talk in Very Good Mothers Club, what I titled it then, my first draft, was Play as a Child's Work, How Play Impacts Every Aspect of Who Your Child is Becoming. So play is the work of a child, I think is a quote from Maria Montessori, who founded like Montessori schools and that style of learning that is very child-led and child-focused. And so this idea that like children, there is adult work and there is the work of a child, and that children set about their work with the same kind of ferocity and attention and diligence that adults do. Their life is full, like our lives are full. It's just full of something different. It looks very different. Children come into this world pre-wired to learn everything that there is. Like everything you know, I think I've said this on the podcast before. This is like a typical for me. But everything you know, you learned. You didn't know how to like literally like walking around, right? Like you practiced walking around, you pulled on things, you like learned how to use your little grip and pull your body up, and you tried again and you tried again and you tried again, and you like tried to sit on the children now try to like sit on the Roomba is something my little nephew just tried to do. Stuff like that, like trying to figure out like how do I move? Like here I am, this like little baby lump, and I have to figure out how to get from over here to over there. Yeah. And like that is hard, focused work. And children come at this work from the aspect of science. They like genuinely use the scientific method where they like observe and experiment and hypothesize and then test their hypothesis and then go back to experimenting when it didn't work. And then they add in new materials or they add in a new element and repeat that process. Like they do it super meticulously like that. That whole setup, like the know-how of doing that is like a system of circuitry that already exists inside. They just don't have any data.
Yeah, and it's so cute when they do that. My mind is going to last night dinner. I poured Jules orange juice because she asked for orange juice. And then she immediately picked it up and dumped it onto the hummus, just all of it. And I just watched, and I had you in my brain, and I'm like, so guess that was an experiment. And I'm like, all right, so Jules, we don't do that to the hummus or the orange juice. Like, noted. Like, I guess this is science right before my very eyes.
Yeah. And it's science that you could freak out about because it's also a mess.
Sure.
But mess is actually like a secondary result. Like what she's doing is not making a mess.
Yeah.
She's trying to find out maybe what it tastes like. She's trying to find out maybe she already tried putting water on her hummus and she saw what that looked like. And now she's like, well, what about orange juice?
Yeah.
We don't know.
No. And then she dipped her carrot in the water. Yep.
That's a big one.
Yeah. I think that you have to laugh and call it science or feel frustrated or mad or something or sad or as much as you can laugh and recognize science in it, it's so much easier because every day is messes, at least in my home in this stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The example that this teacher used in this class, which I still remember from like 9 years ago, is she was talking about dumping. Like the constant and endless toddler habit of whatever container is full of whatever, the smaller the pieces, the better.
Yeah.
They just want to pick up the container and dump it usually away from their bodies, straight onto the ground.
Yeah.
Maybe shake it a little bit to see if any extra Legos will come out.
No, this was my bedtime last night. We had just cleaned Wilson and Eloise's room and Jules came in and took a bin of tiny little car pieces that Wilson uses to build and dumps them upside down right at bedtime. And I yelled, I've been defeated. I've been defeated, Sean. I was like, I need you. I'm defeated. And then he had to come in and tap in because I was like, nope,
can't.
This is too much. And then he just put her little naked body over in her room and got her ready for bed. I was like, this is the thing Layne talks about. I'm so lucky, guys. You need to listen to Layne every week because it really does shape the moments when you're being defeated into like, I can laugh and like, have a glass of wine or something versus I'm going to cry and run away.
Well, my hope is that it keeps it in the realm of like people stuff.
Oh yeah.
You're like, these are people that I'm in a relationship with. And
totally.
This is like the key thing we're talking about today is like
learning.
They're doing something as opposed to being like, I'm a person with these monsters that I made and adore and I think they're the best thing in the whole world. And also they're attacking me and attacking my life all the time.
Totally. Or like I have an agenda as a mom, as a woman, as a person. I have this agenda. And if I don't honor that these are people with agendas too, then they are just sort of a nuisance. They're really slowing down my agenda. They're making this clean house messy or they're making this hummus have orange juice in it. Versus like, she's a person, I'm a person, she's experimenting, I'm living my life. I've already experimented. So I actually went through that same stage of life too. And you're right. You love these little monsters. You love them. So this is a way to tap into that love and really understand them and honor them as little guys who are doing great work.
And something that you just said there, which is that you already know because you already did that stage. That's what the teacher was saying about the dumping is for me, I look at a bucket of Legos and I'm like, those are for putting the blocks together and creating something new.
Yeah.
Because I already know what they're for. I've already used them that way. Right. The child who is dumping is like, whoa, bucket. Pumped on the bucket. Whoa, there's little stuff inside. And then when they move it the first time, they hear that sound of the Legos for the first time ever. And they're like, whoa, that sound is amazing. How much more of that sound can I make? Like this is them doing the science of finding out like, what is this? What is this world? Knocking on it. What kind of sound is it? What does it taste like? What does it smell like? Whoa, can I do that more? Which is what the next question that they always ask out of everything ever. Oh, can I do that more?
Totally.
Can there be more paint? Can that be louder? Can I get higher? Can it be more water? Can it be wetter? Can it be colder?
Right.
Everything is more always. So the dumping out of this is like the ratcheting up of the experiment. Like what is the maximum of this? Or sometimes they dump it on themselves. Like let me feel all these pieces come down and like brush down my face and body. And some of them are hard. They've never stepped on a Lego before.
Right.
I know that they're about to cry because they've dumped everything out. Now there's nothing left to do except for stand on it, which is going to hurt. But they don't because they haven't yet stood on it and found out that it's going to hurt. They don't know that the pieces go together until you do that thing. So they're doing this early work of science that looks to me like nonsense and mess and mayhem. I'm like, why can't you just do it right? And they're like confused, like standing there looking at me like, what? Because they don't know what's in my mind. Yeah. And I didn't know what was in my mind or the adult mind when I was that age.
Totally.
Dumping out those Legos. You have to do it.
Yeah. And they're learning a language the whole time, sometimes more than one. I thought of that too. Like People go to school and study for years to become fluent in a language, and that's all.
Yeah.
And this whole time that they're doing all this studying and exploring the world, they're learning how to take the thoughts in their heads and tell you about them.
Right.
While all of that's happening, like there's so much magic and wonder inside of this little person flipping things upside down and, you know, causing this chaos that can sometimes feel overwhelming to the parent. So much is happening.
Yeah. So much is happening.
That's cool.
And it's happening like their life depends on it because it does. Right? Like if they don't learn how to decipher these sounds that you and I are obviously using to try and communicate with them, but they don't know what it means. Like if they don't figure that out, they know in their biology that like they're not going to make it. Right? These are survival skills. And like we know that now we live in houses and that we're going to stay here and take care of them and all those things. But they're just like little people trying to be like doing call and response with this other mammal creature that they feel warm toward and they feel part of, but also don't know what it's going to do when it comes back and when it leaves. Like all of these things are new to them, but they have the like true animal instinct inside to know like, I got to figure out how to get what I need here.
Yeah.
And so that I think is very key to compassion for little tiny freakouts because they are doing things like their life depends on it. They're trying to figure out just the physics of like standing up and holding a lot of things, right? Because they're people who are going to need to carry things in order to survive in life. And I'm like, you have 8 things and it's going to fall over and whatever. Or I'm like, stop, put all those toys down because now it's time to come eat. And they're like, whoa, I'm learning how to gather like a person so that I can live in this world. So when they freak out, it's not actually for no reason and it doesn't feel small to them. Of course, there are outliers to this and we can talk at other times about when they are testing you or when they have enough data now to know what will cause you to feel upset. And there's, you know, like that, those are, we're talking, that's kind of some separate stuff.
Yeah, it is.
When they get into like more the nuance of social testing.
Totally. And even like you've said, just because they're learning to dump Legos doesn't mean you always let them do it. Like I didn't just let her pour the orange juice in the hummus and be like, oh, cool, science. I was like, honey, that's not what we do. Yeah. But it is so important to understand the process and then you kind of shape within that of like teaching what is right, what is appropriate, what is going to work, what's a tool that's going to work. You say that and I use that. This is a tool that will not work. I really like that.
I like that too.
Yeah, I'm learning.
We're all
learning.
We're all just practicing. And right now what they're practicing are things that look to us like nothing because we have so fully assimilated all of those tools already. Those are now our automatic functions, but they're like really trying out the nitty gritty of how to do these things in order to then file them away and get to more complex kinds of processing. So what they're doing is they're filling out the world that they suddenly live in, right? They sort of like blink awake. You got to cook them and you got to think about them and you got to put their room together and buy them clothes. And then you went through this crazy process, which for a reasonable reason, I ended up seeing a lot of photos of women giving birth the other day. Panic.
Wait, why
like
did you see
actual
these
nausea
photos?
in my stomach? I was like, what? Take it. So this is just another moment of respect for that thing that you went through that they were also there for, but they don't remember that part. No. They just are like pink little doll eyes.
Yeah,
opening.
but I've wondered if Wilson remembers because he really hates the feeling of like a shirt getting stuck on his head. And he was my most giant baby. And I also did not love that feeling of him coming out. And I wonder, did he not love it? And every time he's stuck in a tight spot, does this remind him of his first traumatic experience of like, huge head, tiny hole? Yeah. Well, makes sense.
For them, you guys had this great process. Yeah. And for them, they're just here.
They're here.
They don't know why they're here. They don't even know really that they are. They're just like experience.
Yeah. And happy to be here.
Slowly sort of falling away into darkness for some times and then bang, awake again. That's it at the beginning, right? Yeah. And so now they're in this crazy process of filling out the world that they live in. What does it feel like? What does it smell like? When can I touch it? What effect do I have on this environment? What effect do I have if you change this thing? What if we add this other thing? Like really trying to find out like what does it mean that I'm me and this is the world and what's my place in it and what is it made out of and can I be here? Can I be part of this?
Sweet.
Isn't that special?
That is really sweet. I like it.
So it's good what they're doing. Oh my gosh. Additionally, part of what they're exploring are caregiver responses.
Okay.
So a big piece of the data that has to be collected is like, whoa, there are these other warm, large variables. And they change all the time.
Yeah.
Right? I yell in this way and something happens. I do that thing again, something different happens. So like the most interesting thing about their world is you, right? It's you, the other person. You're the most interesting thing to study. The stakes are so high. The reward is so good, right? That's like your brain is wired to respond that way too. And so whatever's living inside the body also is like longing for this connection. So anytime they can make it happen, it's like, oh, that's the best thing.
Yeah.
And so you get like the fullness, the like maximum of both sides of like, I gotta know what you're gonna do if, and also like, I want you so bad. So you get like the best and the most intense of that exploration gets like aimed straight at you, parent.
Yeah. Sometimes all within like 10 seconds. You'll get like a big snuggle and then a smack in the face and a runaway.
Yeah.
Science, guys. It's all science.
They're trying to draw out from you everything that they need to know about being a human. So they're trying to get from you the full range of responses and figure out why and figure out what's up.
Yeah.
And that's why when Wilson plays with this word the sound that he knows is charged, if your response is, then he puts it away as like, oh, that's a way to get that response out of someone. Or if you're laughing at him and being like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
That's not going to get you anything that you need.
Yeah.
Right. Then it goes in that, files into that category.
That's cute.
Like this is the data that they're using to figure out like, what do I need to be a person here?
Yeah.
And to navigate.
I love that. As you're talking, I can just think about it happening in my day-to-day life, and it is really precious to realize it like that. And they're so lovable. So as they're doing these things, you're like, oh, you're really cute. Like my kids are often naked running through the house doing different things, and to view it as like little naked scientists trying to understand the world, I think is so sweet.
Trying to use all their senses from all the pieces of their skin.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm looking at these notes now. We got through so much of that. It's so wonderful. Oh, do you want me to talk about dueling agendas? We talked about that
please.
A little bit right
That'd
before
be
we
really
jumped
good.
on here.
That's like a major source of frustration for both parents and kids.
Yeah. So now that hopefully I've laid out in a convincing way the fact that they are busy at work, very important work, this play, this turning it over and putting it in your mouth and holding and trying and testing things against banging them together, like all of this stuff that to us. Actually, maybe I want to say this first. When we talk about play sort of like colloquially as adults, we sort of mean it as entertainment, like we put it in the entertainment category.
Right.
It seems like optional and leisure and levity.
And sometimes like excess. Like, I don't know if we should have that.
Right. It's like a luxury. Like, oh, can we afford to play right now?
Right.
And it has a whole other definition with children. When we try to apply that definition to what these children are doing, that's when we don't take them seriously enough, right? Like that's when we pull out the gravity of the like life important work that they're doing.
Wow. Yeah.
Which is why we say that play is the work of a child, play is a child's work.
Yeah.
And so they're like busy doing this work, this like very must happen. They're wholly committed to it and wholly engrossed in it all the time. And it, to them, is the only thing. You, on the other hand, woke up knowing about school and your job and the clothes that they need to wear. And you know that they're going to be hungry in 15 minutes. They only know that they must know how many of these things you can stack before it falls in case it comes in really important in their life,
Totally.
right? And so like there are two agendas happening at the same time. And because you have been alive longer and have more practice, your agenda takes precedent. And that is right and good. I would argue, I actually believe at my core that your agenda is not inherently more important. It does get to go on top because you have better information and more practice. You're the one who knows how to keep us safe. But in terms of internal value, I think that there's equity between like the life that I'm living and the life that this child is living. Like I really believe that that's a whole person who deserves to be respected. So the inherent value of the agendas is the same. One takes priority because there's better information. However, also because you have that better information and you have that perspective, it's your job to be like dictating the respect in the way that those two agendas blend. It's actually not their job to know that your agenda is the one that includes like safety and health and flow. They can't know that. It's not possible. They're still doing what they need in order to be able to someday know about those things. You have the responsibility of knowing that they're busy doing something, knowing that you are going to need them to stop doing that thing and turn to another thing very soon, and deciding like how to guide that, how to either merge your agendas and find a way to incorporate their play into what's going on, or to alert them ahead of time like, hey, I see what you're doing. I think that's really important and cool. I am going to need us to do this other thing. Would you like me to set that aside so you can come back to it? Do you need a couple of minutes, or are you free to come now? However that looks in your relationship, the responsibility does lie on you. The thing of like hollering across the house, like, come have lunch. I don't want to say it again. Like, that's just not reasonable. You can do it, and I don't think it's bad. It's just not going to be effective.
Right.
Because they're doing what they're doing, and it's intense and important. And the fact that that kind of communication isn't working is not on them. Like, I shouldn't have to tell you twice. Like, that's just not a real thing.
So you should have to tell them twice?
You do have to make sure that your communication lands effectively.
Yeah. Right. Meaning like tell them many times, or just like, or
I guess I don't feel super prescriptive about like how you do that. Just the idea that like this kid should just like be super responsive when the second that they hear my voice.
Got it.
It's just not reasonable.
Okay. Is there like an age where it would be reasonable, or it?
Yeah, I'm glad that you bring that up. What I'm talking about is pretty specific to under fives.
Okay.
They really take in most of this data in those years.
Okay.
And especially for the first 3 years, they're building. Brain synapses are like firing, building new neurological connections at like an astonishing speed. Okay. I don't remember what the numbers are, but it's like a million a second. It's got to be crazy. It's like astronomical. Yeah. And then very shortly after those years, your brain is like, cool, we got it. And then it actually trims a lot of that down. Wow. Like it deletes a bunch of stuff.
Okay.
Because it shifts from building into like efficiency mode of like, cool, we now learned about a super ton of stuff. So now we don't need a bunch of this, or like we get it. That goes into the automatic space essentially. And now we can focus on other things.
Yeah.
Our bodies are functioning and like more literally like physically proportionate. And the brain is like kind of got what it needs. It's got for most people, it has language pretty well handled. It has a lot of social skills built. It has all that basic physics stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like when you step, like when a small child steps and the ground is a little bit uneven, it topples them. By the time you're 5, like your eyes have already scanned ahead and kind of know.
Right.
That
makes sense.
Like it sees a curb coming and you hop a little higher without thinking about it.
Right.
So this is, I do mean this like pretty specifically for
that's
little
really
littles.
Good. That's helpful. Yeah. A question that came up as you're talking, sometimes you meet families that really place a high value on education. I'm thinking of one family in particular who has, but there have been a lot, especially in the preschool setting, where it was like, well, I really want my children to grow up and speak a bunch of languages and be exceptional readers and all of these things, which that's cool. My question is, sometimes what that would translate to is like, so I have my child sit at a table and practice letters, or like sit and do something. And so I've heard like that kind of thing for education, like the things we sort of imagine as like, I don't know, maybe American school or Western culture school. But then it seems like what you're saying, or what I'm hearing, is play is very much an education. So could it be that we could view it that way and not feel like we really need to, I mean, there's really no judgment. I'm not saying that people shouldn't have their kids sit and do those things, but like, could I, as a mom of little kids, could I treat it like they're having extended playtime with Legos? That is their education for the morning. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay.
I am of the school of thought, and again, like my expertise is mostly like hands-on.
Sure.
I just read people who are like real life experts. But I adhere to a school of thought that says that I don't actually think that like symbols and letters and those kinds of things are particularly useful to children.
Yeah.
Prior to the age of 5, certainly, and probably not until like 7. I feel nervous.
Yeah, I know. People are going to have all kinds of opinions.
But I'm going to just tell you what I think.
Yeah, sure.
And I don't need anybody to stop doing what they're doing and change to what I have to say at all. But this is what I think is true. I think that children need to be free to explore and that they have what they need in their minds to learn what they need. I just read a quote in a book that says you can't make a tree grow by pulling on it.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah. I think that I feel so nervous. To me,
because so for me, this is a non-triggering conversation at all. Are there people who get really passionate about learning styles? Is that why?
Yes.
Okay.
And there are people for whom it's really important that their children read really early, and they are showing that they are good parents by how high their kids can count.
Yeah.
And by
or
how
like
long
piano lessons
they spend at Kumon and how full their lives are of activities. I believe that those people have the absolute best intentions at heart, and I respect their values. I do not think that that's a valuable way for small children to be spending time.
Okay.
I think you are asking them to be older than they are. I don't think that there is such a thing as like, I'm going to get you ready for kindergarten now.
Right.
By teaching you what you need to know in kindergarten. I actually think that that will inhibit real school readiness. To me, school readiness is confidence, really strong bodies and hands that have like really tried and practiced things, really strong communication skills, which to me does not have anything to do with books and letters. It has to do with being able to speak and being able to communicate your needs. Emotional regulation is essential for all kinds of learning.
Wow.
Children are about to be asked at 5 years old to sit down in a classroom for 3 to 5 hours in a day. That requires immense emotional regulation skills, immense frustration tolerance. You have to be able to tolerate such a high frustration level as a 5-year-old to like have your day super structured and like follow these adult instructions all day long and sit and work with a lot of paper, flat paper. Like you have to have a super strong pincher grasp. You have to have, okay, this is going to be hard to show you if you're not on the video, but there is like a principle in brain development that is called crossing the margin.
Oh, yeah.
Or I'm sorry, the midline, crossing the midline. Your brain is in 2 hemispheres. You have to do things with your body that require the like cross-body communication. Like those hemispheres have to learn how to talk to one another.
Yeah.
So if you're a person who has not like rubbed your hand from like one side of your body all the way over and around to like finger paint on a wall or like swim in the ocean or spread out in the sand or spread shaving cream, like getting one hand to cross over the side to the other side of your body, like literally being able to touch one shoulder and touch the other shoulder and like
hug yourself. If you can't see this, it's like hugging yourself.
Things that you do in play with your body. Like you cannot learn how to write if the 2 hemispheres of your brain can't talk to one another.
Sure.
And you don't care about symbols if you have not explored story with toys and dolls and trucks and books.
Yeah.
Like nothing matters. Like none of these school skills matter if they're not connected to life. I don't mean that in a philosophical way. I mean it very literally.
That's true all the way up.
Readiness to learn includes these very essential blocks. And children who have sat very still and are very good at paper and don't know how to say, hey, can I play with you? Don't know how to like use their hands to build a thing. Like it's cool that they can group things into number groups. But if they don't like know why they're doing that, because they've never tried to construct something, they've never like tried to, I don't know, they haven't sorted teddy bears from over here to over there.
Right.
And then been like, I don't know, how many teddy bears do you try to negotiate fairness in a 3-year-old friendship of like, we should have the same number. Now counting matters because I want to know if we have the same. Yeah. You know, like these are the things that are school readiness. I am pretty anti-worksheet.
Yeah. I think what I find encouraging about what you're saying is that it gives play so much meaning, even to the parent who wants good things for their kids. But also as parents, we feel a bit of pressure of like, your child's not in piano, your child hasn't been in a dance recital. Like there's so many things that are linked to the idea of like, a well-educated, well-rounded child, and they start really little. Even the pressure of like, make sure you sign up for preschool, and your baby just came out and you're like, wait, what? I have to be thinking about that years in advance. But to take away all of the noise and be like, wow, all of this playing that they're doing, this is their education, and they're learning really important things about how to function as a human being, and they will grow up well if they can be educated in these ways. I like that. That to me is really comforting.
Here's an example from like my own self and development. And this is not a reflection on my parents. This is more like me reflecting on if I was my own parent now. I could read when I was 4. I desperately wanted to be impressive and was able to do that kind of little processing. And that felt really important to me then. However, when I went to try and do piano lessons when I was, 6 or 7 or whatever, what I could not do was practice in front of someone. I felt like I would die if I did the thing wrong. And so I couldn't, the piano teacher was there trying to do the more like, classical education-y thing with me, but the social skill or like the internal confidence to be like, yeah, I'll put my fingers there and it will not sound like what you did. And that's okay. I will keep working on it. I did not have that, even though I could read before I went to kindergarten. And all the other small children were like, whoa, she can read. So for me as my parent, I would want to be able to notice like, this kid is not taking risks, and like look for some ways to grow in my little child, like the skill of like, why don't you try this out? Yeah, that seems like it's going to be super intense. I don't think you're going to be able to do it either, but I'm right here next to you to help you figure that out. And like let in her life build in sort of the illusion of risk as opposed to maybe spending so much time on words.
That's cool. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Really good. I'm learning.
Whew, I'm a little sweaty now.
You did a great job. That was really great.
Okay. I think that's sort of the end of my notes about play.
Okay.
I guess what I want to say is I'm a person for whom it's easy to understand children. And I think it's because I can see this world that they're in. And I want everybody else to be able to see this world because it's so cool. It's so beautiful and so cool. And what it's done for me as an adult to have this respect for the way that children play is that I now see all the tiny things in my life. Like I spend a lot of time watching, like there's this plant here in my living room that its little leaves go up and down a lot during the day based on whether there's a shadow on it or not.
That's cool.
And like I really noticed that. And I learned that from 2 and 3-year-olds. That like so dropping in and focusing. And there's a crystal in the window that makes rainbows on the wall every day, and I'm deeply delighted by the rainbows on the wall. That's and like my heart waits for them to come because I know they're going to come at some point because I had that in my classroom.
Yeah, my kids are like that too with our little rainbows. I know. Yeah, the delight is so contagious when you're able to be present with it versus all the grown-up thoughts we have that sometimes can take us away from those moments.
Yeah, we still live in this same world that they're discovering, and it's just as amazing now as it was when we were little. But now we are efficient, like we were talking about, and so our brains aren't trained to be like dropped in and living inside our bodies and living inside our senses as much, where theirs still are. And I just think that one of the opportunities of getting to have children in your life every day is that you get to be there. Like you actually could try and merge your agenda with their agenda and like let play be more a part of your life, or even just let the simple aspects of like, I'm now rinsing these things down the sink, and actually the way that those colors are swirling is really beautiful. Like that's a powerful way to live your life. That's like really being in the moments that you have.
Yeah. And it's such a decision, I find, because there are moments where like I'll get home from work and I can hear the kids from my driveway, like where I park the car, I can hear them inside being so noisy and fun. And I can either stay in my mind about all of the things that I faced in the day and like the challenges that I'm trying to figure out and, you know, financial stresses or something, or I can leave those and I can go inside and I can like see the children and then try to see the room the way they see it and experience the evening with them, not as much like as the adult with the agenda, but like as somebody who wants to be with them. And somebody, I think it might have been Brennan Burchard, he talked about in one of his books, like in any transition you have during your day. So like I'm going to leave Layne's house and I'm going to go back to my house. Like that car ride is a transition. And when you are aware of transitions, you can use them to kind of cue you to be present again. So like, okay, I just left that. How did that go? Good. Or I want to grow in this way or something. And then, okay, now I'm going to my next thing. How do I want that to go? Who do I want to be when I show up there? And that transition of ending work and going home is one of those where I'm like, who do I want to be tonight to the kids? And then I try and be that, but it is very much an intentional choice. And on the weekends when I'm with them all the time, there are like moments during the day where I have to bring myself back to being with them and like really with them down in their, like even literally they're down, the way they see the room is low. But choosing that I will be there with them in the moment versus being up high in my moment, thinking about all the things I have to think about. And then there are just little kind of extra things going on.
Yeah.
It's a choice.
I love that. The more that you can do that, the more your like the complex, juicy, real relationship that you have with your child will grow. Yeah. And that connection will grow stronger. And like the stronger your connection is, the more ease there is in a relationship, the less friction there is, the more they trust you when you are interrupting this like very important work that they're doing or whatever, asking them to do something hard, telling them like, I know you don't like it, but we're going to have to whatever. Like that, the strength of that relationship creates like a stretchy, nice elasticity so that things can feel however they need to feel. And life just feels richer and smoother.
Yeah. Do you have a like do this? For us, sometimes when I listen to things, I'm like, okay, what's my takeaway? Like, what do I do? Do you have any with all of these notes that is like a main, homework's the wrong word after everything we talked about, but like a cool challenge for us?
I think it would probably have to start where most of my advice starts with observe.
Okay.
Like you set for yourself the job of becoming the scientist about your own child, like make them your object of observation, really notice what they're doing, be the David Attenborough in your own head being like, and look at it now while it whatever, look at the way that it eats its food by holding it over its head and dropping it into its weird little mouth. You know? Like really try to see what they're doing from their own perspective. Like what need is this serving for you? What do you think you're doing right now? I know what I think you're doing, but what is it for you?
Yeah, that's cool. What do you think you're doing right now? That's pretty cute. Yeah, I'm used to watching them being like, what do I think you're doing? Right. I think you're hilarious. But they think they're doing serious work.
Very self-important.
Yeah. Oh, that's precious. Okay, cool. Yeah. You want to end on that?
Yeah, I feel complete.
Perfect. When Layne feels complete, I feel complete as well. On a topic like this, I need your completeness because I am listening as a fellow mother. Like I feel like today's is I'm part of the audience listening that will go and apply it in a few moments. So I appreciate you.
It's my pleasure.
Appreciate you guys. You're doing great. And we'll see you next week.
Have a good week.
Okay, bye.